welcome to another movie reviews video. I only actually saw 3 movies in the cinemas this week, which for most people would be quite a lot, but for me this seems to be like less. I don't know, normally I have at least 4 or 5 to talk about. I will leave timestamps as always in the description box below, so if there's a particular movie that you've seen in the thumbnail that you want to scroll along to, you can do that. There will be no movie review video next week. 2 reasons: I'm away. I normally film these either on a Saturday or a Sunday morning so that it does reflect my viewing right up until Saturday night, and then starts again on the Sunday, and I will be away this time next weekend. And also because I'm away from about Tuesday, I probably won't actually see many movies in the next week, so there might be 0 or 1 to talk about maximum. I don't know what's going on here. So yeah, no movie review next week. However, I will leave a playlist of my movie reviews up here and also at the end of this video, and I will also leave my book versus movie playlist at the end of this video too, in case you want to catch up with that in the meantime, because there will be another movie review video in 2 weeks time. So that's just that quick announcement out the way that's taken me a minute and a half. Okay, so the first movie I saw at the cinemas this week was actually on Thursday. It was First Man, and we went to see it in the Dolby Cinema, so the sound was really, really good. Now, having watched A Star Is Born twice last week, which is 2 hours and 15 minutes, I was expecting the length of this one to feel very similar because this one was 2 hours and 21 minutes. However, this movie felt like it lasted for about 4 weeks. That didn't mean that it was a bad movie. It didn't mean that I didn't enjoy the movie, but it felt very long. One of the negatives about it for me was that it felt very long. We both agreed that the cinematography was really good. We liked the way it was shot. There was a lot of kind of like close-up shots and following people shots, and there was a lot of use of silence as well, because it's a very emotional movie. It's about obviously Neil Armstrong and his journey to become the first man on the moon. So we see a lot of NASA's journey and NASA's development as well. So the film spans over, I think it's 8 or 9 years. I think we begin in 61 and end in 68 or 69. Should probably know when the moon landing was. But yeah, because it takes place over so long, obviously I can see why the film itself is 2 hours 20 minutes. And a lot of films that are that long don't feel that long, like Star Is Born. But it does feel quite slow in parts. We could feel kind of scenes where maybe they could have cut time out. But I think the cinematography and the use of silence and the use of other sound as well. Obviously we saw it in the Dolby Cinema so we could get the best sound possible, and it really was good sound and good silence. So the use of sound in general was really good and really reflected the emotion of the film. There was one point in the film, I'm not going to tell you when or what, that had me absolutely sobbing, like actually properly sobbing. I couldn't breathe. It was just so emotional, and it was a very, very, very quiet moment in the film as well. There was a lot of parts of it that were new to me that I didn't know, so I learned a lot more about the history of Neil Armstrong. I thought that Ryan Gosling was very good. Obviously I haven't seen a lot of footage of Neil Armstrong at all or read anything up about him. I don't know why, because I think I would be quite interested in that. But I think he probably played the part quite well. He himself was very quiet and very thoughtful and considered in everything that he did, the character in the film. So I'm assuming that that was based on stories and biographies and study done of Neil Armstrong. And then I thought that Claire Foy did a really good job as well. And I love the fact that the film shows the background of the wives of these astronauts. So we don't just see Claire Foy as Neil Armstrong's wife, we see some of the other wives as well, and the impact it has on them when their husbands go to work. Because, yeah, you don't think about that. You don't think about the fact that this was all in the 60s, and technology then wasn't what it was now. And she has this wonderful line in the film where she's like, you're just boys playing with toys and hoping that it works. And it's like, well, yeah, they did loads and loads and loads of testing, but during testing a lot of things went wrong and people died and things exploded and equipment was lost and taxpayers' money was lost along the way. A lot of people were very against it by the time we actually got to the moon landing. And I hadn't ever thought about the impact on the families at home. But yeah, your husband going off in this thing which has been tested but has gone wrong in testing, leaving the Earth's atmosphere, going to land on something which hasn't been landed on before, so therefore could be, massively dangerous. You don't know. There's all this not knowing, and you've got family at home, and you're still having to be the mother to them and take care of them and reassure them that their father's okay. So I really, really, really liked that side of the film. So yeah, overall it was definitely positive. I liked the music, I liked the cinematography, I thought the acting was very good, I liked the background that we got, but it was just too long. And so I started to get a little bit uncomfortable, I started to get a little bit fidgety, and what time is it, when are we leaving already? Which is interesting because it's only 6 minutes longer than A Star Is Born. Never at that point did I feel like, oh, I need to go now. I didn't leave the theatre at all during the film, which is really, yeah, it's I shouldn't compare, but because the films are such similar lengths, I do. Then I went to see Love, Nina, which I hadn't heard an awful lot about. Normally, because I go to see a lot of sort of indie films, I do see trailers for other indie films, and so I generally would have seen a preview for it, but I hadn't seen a preview for this one. And I saw that it was sort of being promoted and it was posting at some of the indie cinemas as well as the big AMC that we have. We're lucky that the AMC is 24 screen AMC, so they do show some indie films as well and some Bollywood films as well, which is really cool. Yeah, so I watched the trailer for it and I was like, yes, this looks like me. It's playing on Saturday afternoon and I'm free on Saturday afternoon. Let's do this. So it's a story about a stand-up comedian, and she moves from New York to LA to kind of like break into a different kind of comedy. She might get signed by this for a 1 hour special kind of thing, and we know that she is very sort of cynical and very anti-relationship. Right at the beginning of the film, we know that she is in a sort of abusive relationship, and maybe how that has affected her comedy. The film is very funny, but it has a very, very strong message, which is very appropriate to today's climate and Me Too, and people coming forward with their stories of present or past abuse. And so the film gets very dark in points because of that, but I think it is handled very well because we are just following this one character and her journey, and we learn more and more about what has led up to her journey just through her stories and her comedy on stage as well. And then we learn about obviously different kinds of abuse that she has witnessed and or suffered at various points in the film. It's not a spoiler to say that, because I think it's important that people know that, because I think then you're more likely to watch the film. Yeah, I'd say there were some real funny moments that had me laughing out loud. There's one particular storyline with this English character, and they kind of mock the way she talks about a specific thing, and it was just absolutely hilarious. And the other people, sorry, I've got an itchy eye, the other people in the cinema thought it was funny, but I think I found the humour slightly different because I am English. Anyway, there weren't many people watching it, so yeah, I definitely recommend this one. It is not a light-hearted comedy film. There is a lot of swearing, there is violence, there is talk of rape throughout the film. There is obviously talk of other kinds of abuse as well. There is talk of some drug taking, but there are people of colour represented well in the film, and there is good level of representation for LGBTQ plus group as well. So yeah, overall as a whole package, I would say it's a really good film. As I say, even though it gets dark, I did laugh as well, and I'm still kind of thinking about it now, which is a good thing, I think. So yeah, if it's still playing where you are, recommend going out to see it. There was me saying that because this was only 3 films, it was going to be shorter today, and we're already past 10 minutes. I apologise. I obviously had a lot to say about a long film. Then the third film that I saw this week was Bad Times at the El Royale, which I knew that I wanted to see as soon as I started seeing trailers for it, which was a while ago. As you know, I try to avoid too many trailers, but I really enjoyed the trailer for this one because of the music that's used in it and the instance when Chris Evans appears. I think they do the trailer really well. So this is about people checking into this El Royale hotel, which lands at the California-Nevada border. So half the hotel is in California and half of it is in Nevada. And they sort of talk about the fact that the Nevada side is a slightly darker side and gambling is legal on that side, whereas in the California side it costs $1 more for each room. It's sunnier, but you can get alcohol on that side, which is a really interesting, like, dark and light parallel. This film is also very violent. It's being marketed as a horror film, but I would say, as a reader of thriller novels, I would say it is more like a thriller than a horror. There is obviously lots of death. The death count is very high, but we know that from the trailer, and there is lots of violence and people die in different ways. But there is a storyline that goes through it. It's not just a slasher film or a serial killer film or a killer film. There is a background to each and every person. Everybody has a reason for being at that hotel, and not everybody's reason, well, let's face it, nobody's reason is above board. Even perhaps the person who works in the hotel, there is definitely more to him that meets the eye. And then Chris Hemsworth's character comes along, and his character is super dark. Like, if you love the fact that Chris Hemsworth as Thor is like fighting evil and is the ultimate good guy. He's the complete opposite in this film, basically. So yeah, I loved learning the background stories for each and every one of the characters, and the way the film is structured is that we have a frame that says room 4, and then we see what's going on in room 4, and then we we'll move forward a little bit with that storyline, and then we'll have a thing that says like room 7, and we might backtrack a little bit and cover some of the stuff that happened in the room 4 storyline, but from the perspective of whichever guest is in room 7, and then we get room 7's story, and then obviously we know it's all going to come together at one point, which will be in like the main area of the hotel. So yeah, it was a completely full theatre that I saw this in. So I got a lot of audience reaction. There was some laughter at comedy, but also some really uncomfortable laughter. So something happens which is quite violent and shocking, and then we kind of like pan away, and there was like the whole theatre had this kind of uncomfortable laughter moment. We were united in this, oh, moment. The guy next to me, when one of the first kind of like things happened, was like, oh my. So that's the kind of film it is, and I really like the fact that I saw it in a full theatre, so I got that audience reaction, because I think having another audience reaction, I've said this before, really helps me work through my own reaction to it. So I was a little bit disappointed that it was more thriller than horror, but once I made peace with the fact that it was more thriller and horror, I appreciated it for the storyline, which is what I really love in thriller novels, the way the storyline is woven together and the clever things that link people and the things that are revealed slowly as the film goes on. And it was interesting use of the weather in this film as well. I think the weather really adds to the atmosphere, as it does in any kind of thriller or horror film. But yeah, the weather really gave this one a little bit of extra oomph. And Nick Offerman is in this, so if you go and see this, let me know if you spot Nick Offerman. You know I'm a big fan, so I spotted him, and I waited till the credits and I was like, yes, it was him, I did. So let me know in the comments what films you have seen, especially if you've made it this far, or any new releases that you would like me to cover here. As I say, my next film video will be in 2 weeks' time, but I will still have my normally scheduled book videos, and I do have a book versus movie coming up as well. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I post on here with my book videos. Make sure you come back and check those. The screen after this one will have the playlist of the movie reviews and the book versus movies, so you can catch up on those in the meantime between now and 2 weeks' time, when I'll have another movie review video for you. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed so that tomorrow's video and the next movie review video lands right in your subscription feed and you don't miss it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry it's been a long one, even though there was only 3 films. I will see you with a bookish video tomorrow and another movie review video in 2 weeks' time. Bye.